Hi, my name is Sheron Hamilton-Pearson with a very special feature for Jamaicans.com. I was recently featured in a movie that was premiered, the remastered version of it premiered at the British Film Festival in October and also at the New York Film Festival, and I was very privileged and proud to be able to attend one of the premiere screenings. So I've been asked what drew me to participate in the project and what aspects of the film's narrative resonated with me. Well, as a 21-year-old, the sky was my limit, and I did lots of things. I participated in lots of things at that time, and the opportunity came to have a role in a film that was being directed and produced, written by Horace Survey, produced by Rob Buckler, with funding from the British Film Institute in response to a lack of stories of immigrants. So they wanted to add some colour to the film industry in the UK. Lucky for me, I was a part of that project. The narrative that really resonated with me was the fact that it was telling the story of what we now call the Windrush children, which would have been children who were born to immigrants who answered the call from the motherland, the UK, to come and rebuild the country after the devastation of the Second World War. So all of the Commonwealth countries, people migrated, left their homelands and traveled to the UK. And consequently, they had children who were British born, considered themselves British, and didn't really know anything about their Caribbean or Indian heritage. So that was why the film really resonated with me, because it was the first feature film to tell the story of what was happening in England in the 70s, particularly the repression by police, the harsh treatment that the youth growing up were facing because they were not considered British, but they themselves thought they were. So what impact do I believe pressure had on the representation of second generation? Well, for those who were lucky to have an opportunity to see the film, they would have felt a sense of belonging to know that their stories were being told. But you must remember, at the time, this was just fun for me, a participant in the film, as I'm sure it was for other actors and actresses. Though I have to say, a lot of the representation in that movie was actually people who had no acting experience whatsoever. I did drama in school, so I had a love for theatrics and went to drama clubs. But a lot of the people that you see filming had never been in a film before, and they were street boys living in the Grove. There's one particular scene where the boys are shoplifting and they run into a derelict building. That was a squat, what we called squats back in the day, because there was a lot of demolition and rebuilding going on in London, and that was actually real. Those boys actually did live in that squat. So it was reality and fiction all rolled into one. So I think the youth who did get an opportunity to see the film, it would resonate with them because the film was telling their story, and there were very few places where they could see a true representation of their struggles as Caribbean born or Indian born, Asian born, but British. They considered themselves British. So how do I think the remastered version of Pressure contributes to preserving and promoting the legacy of Black British cinema? Wow, that's a loaded question. I think the film in its original format was a joy and a delight because it represented truthfully, it told the real story of what was happening with Black British immigrants and the Windrush generation, the children of those immigrants, how difficult it was for them to assimilate in a country that they were alien to, for the parents, and for the children, a country that saw them as second-class citizens when they considered themselves wholly and totally British. So The remastered version, I'm still trying to figure out the difference. The remastered version, it's a cleaner version, and I guess it gives another generation, successive generations, the opportunity to learn a little bit more about their history, because Black history in the 70s and maybe still today is not really taught in schools. So the history that we learned, I can tell you about the Tudors, I can tell you about Victorian history, I can name kings and queens, I can tell you about the Danes, but did we know anything about Black history? What we were fed was a false narrative, and Black history is something that I had to learn for myself. So, promoting the legacy of Black British cinema, it's a beacon that will stand the test of time because it was the first, and kudos to the British film industry who actually put funding and helped to create that film, even though the film was shelved for a period of 3 years because at the time the content was considered too radical. The scene with the police raid got that film banned for 3 years. So it sat on the shelf for 3 years until the powers that be decided that it was right to release it. So kudos also to Horace Ove, whose idea it was, who had the vision and the cojones to make his film and to stick with it. And of course I have to give him his flowers, even though he sadly passed away in September, but not before he got his recognition by receiving her knighthood from Queen Elizabeth II before she also passed away. So I know the spirits are there, and Horace, you're not here with us in flesh, but we know that your name will go down in history because with each remastering of the film, successive generations will get to see a slice of history, which I'm very, very happy that I had a part in. So, what are my favorite scenes or moments in the film? Oh my gosh. Of course, the scenes that contain me. No, seriously, I think all of the film to me, watching it at the premiere this past Friday, October the 13th, it was nostalgic as I sat and reminisced and looked at a London that is gone, is now only recollected in film, Carnaby Street. When Tony is swaggering down the street looking like John Travolta, I remember going to, I think it was Crackers, a club that teenagers used to frequent. What I loved though was how some people may think the film was bashing white people, but it wasn't, because it actually showed the black and white youths sharing their experiences, coming together, partying together, having friendships. And I think for me that was one of the great takeaways of the film. And also how at the end Tony, the young man, disillusioned with the fact that he was not getting a job because of his color. It was obvious that because he was a black boy, because he was certainly qualified for the jobs that he was going for, but his color prevented him. And a lot of us who have that experience can resonate and understand. So the film depicted the experiences of so many black British, and you know, for that I am eternally grateful. It's something that generations after me will look at and know where they're coming from. So again, thank you, Horace Ove, and everybody, Samuel Selvin, who also wrote the script, the producer Robert Buckler, and the co-star Herbert Norville, and everyone who had a role to play in that film. I'm so happy to be standing with you, next to you, on your shoulders.